Ellen, you've been holding on to a story since last week about artificial intelligence that we didn't really have a chance to get into, so let's do that if you've got it ready.
Okay, yeah, I actually have two things. One is a news article from MSN.com, and another is from the source itself, IBM, which is the company that developed this new chip. And so the article, as I said, is from MSN.com, and says International Business Machines Corp. Unveiled a brain-like computer chip on Thursday that is the size of a postage stamp and capable of processing massive amounts of data while handling inputs from many different sources. The announcement comes 1 month after IBM unveiled a $3 billion investment over the next 5 years in chip research and development to find a game-changing breakthrough that can help revive its slumping hardware unit. Unlike most chips, which operate on pre-written paths, IBM's version processes data in real time and is capable of dealing with ambiguity, the company said. It runs on the energy equivalent of a hearing aid. Built in Samsung Electro Machines Company, the 28 nanometer process technology, the chip only consumes 70 megawatts of energy.
Megawatts?
It may be smaller than that. It's lowercase m.
Milliwatts.
Milliwatts, okay. Sorry.
Megawatt would be a lot of energy.
Okay, well, that was a mistake on my part. A product of almost a decade of research, the chip
That's less than a watt.
Yeah.
70 megawatt or milliwatts is less than a watt.
A product of almost a decade of research, the chip aims to bridge the divide between existing computers and the brain's high cognitive power and low energy use. After years of collaboration with IBM, we are now a step closer to building a computer similar to our brain, said Professor Rajit Manohar at Cornell Tech, where the chip was designed. The chip contains 1 million programmable neurons and could allow a thermometer to scan and smell chemical signals and deliver a diagnosis, or help a search and rescue robot to identify people in need during a disaster, the company said. So that's the ideal use for this, but I imagine...
So they're claiming this is a step towards the robot brain. I mean, they're not quite saying this is to the point where they're going to be able to emulate or be exactly the same as a human brain, but this is a big step. They're claiming, the scientists are saying this is a step in that direction.
Yes, with 1 million programmable neurons, I believe that is that's much better than any computing power that we have now.
I'm
Actually,
just impressed with how
here.
small it is.
Right, the size of a postage stamp, and apparently it can work with ambiguity, which no computer has been able to do before.
What does that mean?
I have no idea.
That means that it can take data from several different sources and kind of determine a consequence from that. So, like, it can take in information, like, if you had this
so sort
chip,
of what I did earlier, where I read two different news stories and then compiled them together,
make a decision about
to
Right.
figure out what exactly happened.
So there's a picture on the article, and basically it says that if you have this chip in your phone, you could basically point it at something, and it will take in all of the different aspects of this thing and tell you what it is. And this is really an unprecedented scale. Like in 2011,
They already have that, by the way, recognizing, like, phones can recognize certain things, obviously barcode scanners, but there's, I think, something that you can, like, hold the phone up and point it at products, and I believe that exists, and it can recognize it.
Oh, there's a thing. Well, I'm not sure if it's the same as what you're talking about, but I've got an app on my phone to where I can scan a barcode.
Yep.
It tells me what the product is, and then shows me prices from like 5 major websites.
Yeah, I'm not talking about a barcode scanner. I think I've heard of some sort of product, some sort of app that will allow you to take a picture of something, and that it will try to figure out what that thing is, just based on what the picture looks like.
Right.
I know that the Google bots have something to where you can upload a picture, and it will show you all of the other websites that have that photo. And help you determine where that photo came from.
Right. There's actually a video on this website showing it's basically just like a fountain with some grass, and then there's two people riding bicycles around this roundabout, and if you play through the video, it will show like the image is like focusing in on the two people, and this is because the chip will actually pick out the most interesting aspects of a video or an image or something and like tell you what they are. and it processes these portions of interesting video to determine what they are and actually give you an analysis. So I guess that's one aspect of working with the ambiguity.
The police could use that to scan over all these camera feeds. Like, for instance, one of the big critiques about the Great Britain installation of 4 million CCTV cameras or something ridiculous like that all across London and elsewhere. One of the big critiques has been, who the hell's going to watch all that? There's nobody that you can't have enough people hired to watch 4 million CCTV cameras. One of the ideas was to crowdsource it, put all the videos online, and let a bunch of local busybodies and snitches spend their free time sitting and watching video feeds, which, I guess that's an idea. And then, of course, the other one would be to have some sort of computer analyzing the video feeds and determining what it thought would be criminal activity. So maybe that's one of the things they might be using this for.
But they could also use this to just compile, facial recognition.
Yeah, and I think there's been a buildup with that, with the facial recognition technology. Like, they even have that on Facebook.
Yeah, they do.
And it works.
I've posted pictures before, and then Facebook goes through like the 12 pictures that I post all at once and is like, do you want to tag Ian in 5 of these? Do you want to tag this person? Do you want to tag this person? And I'm like, no, don't want to tag any of them. And then there's always the one face that I don't recognize, and then upon further review, I realize that it's a face that's on somebody's T-shirt.
Yeah, so this is actually a huge step, because in 2011, the best technology they had was only 256 programmable neurons.
And now it's a million?
Yes, and now it's a million.
I mean, I don't know what a programmable neuron means, but going from 256 to a million in 3 years is a pretty big jump.
Right. See, I believe what they mean by programmable neuron is that it takes in information and can, form a complete story out of that. I'm not.
At some point, the tech
in an event-driven fashion is what the term that they use. So
at some point, the mainstream media explanation of the technology breaks down.
Right.
And a programmable neuron. I mean, what does that even mean? That alone, I think you'd probably have to dig in and do some research.
I don't know, but most people aren't going to dig in, and they're, oh wow, that's impressive.
Cores on the same chip communicate with one another via an on-chip event-driven network.
Fancy. It sounds very fancy, and it could be used for evil, that's for sure. As long as we've got governments around, all this robot technology is very scary, I think. 855, 450 free will continue here in a moment. You can take control and share your thoughts on Free Talk Live. This is Free Talk Live. Take control toll-free here and bring up anything that you want. Maybe you want to talk about the rise of AI. Ellen has been explaining to us a new IBM chip that can operate at like a 2/3 of a watt, basically, and it can process a crazy amount of information. It's very, very small, the size of a postage stamp, and that it has 1 million programmable neurons. And not that that means anything to me, because we don't know what a programmable neuron is, nor do I really want to find out, because it's probably too technically detailed. But the comparison is interesting. Apparently in 2011, the similar, the predecessor to this model, had 256 programmable neurons. Was that correct, Ellen?
Yeah, and I would just say that I guess you could relate it to the human brain, because
that's what they're trying to do,
every time you learn something, there's a few neurons that are programmed to respond to a certain stimulus.
Mm-hmm.
So it basically it just means that it can take in information and learn from that.
A lot more information. Going from 256 to 1 million is a huge jump, and we're going to continue seeing jumps like that over time. Certainly technology has been subject to, is it not Moore's Law? It's I forget what it's called right now.
The 3 laws of robotics?
No, there's the one law that that specifies that over every 18 months that technology will roughly double. And I'm forgetting what that is right now, but there's a name for it. I'm sure.
Oh, I know the one you're talking about.
It's just going up exponentially.
Correct. Now, the one thing that has been pointed out about that particular law is that it's an observation over time, and odds are good that it's going to speed up also. So it may not be 18 months, it may be down to 12 months or something like that.
Right. Well, I feel like every time we create better technology, we're getting closer to the point in time where technology can design itself.
And that would be, I believe, what is called by Ray Kurzweil, this sort of futurist roboticist guy, as the man. I'm really spacing on terms tonight. That would be the combo of humans
Singularity?
and singularity. Thank you very much.
And it
That's
is
exactly
Moore's
what I was looking
Law.
for. It is Moore's Law. Okay, well, that's good. My memory isn't totally shot. The singularity. Thank you very much. I should have remembered that one. We've talked about it a number of times here on Free Talk Live. The idea that at some point, and it does seem to be that it will be inevitable, that at some point computer technology, artificial intelligence, will reach the equivalent of the human brain in its intellectual capacity, and that at that point it will surpass humanity and will be able to do what you suggested, Ellen, which is essentially program its own upgrades from that point forward. And the idea is that is the singularity. And
Right.
then at that point, what good will humans really be to the machine race?
Well,
Batteries. Humans will become batteries. I've seen the movie. I know what happens.
so have any of you seen iRobot?
Yes.
So that was actually originally a book written by Isaac Asimov, who also made the 3 Laws of Robotics, which I mentioned earlier. Which
But you
is
didn't tell us what they were, so what are
Okay.
they, if you have them?
So the first one is a robot may not injure a human being or through inaction allow a human being to come to harm.
Which, of course, we know that every robot movie, I mean, that most all robot movies that are rated over PG-13 shows robots breaking the first rule, right?
Right. If you're watching something like, I don't know, The Matrix, then, that pretty much
iRobot was another
blows
one,
it out
The
of
Matrix,
the water. Yeah.
Terminator,
RoboCop.
yeah.
So the second law is a robot must obey the orders given to it by human beings, except where such orders would conflict with the first law. So they have to obey human law, except for when people say, like, hey, go strangle that person. Like, they're
Right.
not allowed to follow that. And then the third law is a robot must protect its own existence as long as such protection does not conflict with the first or second law.
It's very nice. A nice set of rules, but I suspect
Right.
the U.S. Government will not be implementing those.
Hold
in
on.
their
No,
So
but-
robot
I could
software.
very easily cause a robot to self-destruct on the grounds of causing him to violate all of the laws at once.
How's that?
Well, the first law is that he cannot injure a human.
Okay.
The second law is that he must obey any orders given to it by a human.
Right.
And the third law is that it must protect its own existence as long as it does not conflict with the
Yeah.
first or second law. So you give the robot an order to either destroy itself or to kill all humans, and then from over processing, trying to figure out how to follow the orders given to it by a human, it would therefore self-destruct.
Wait, but it has to protect its own existence.
Right, but no, it would just overheat. And
I
I
don't
don't
think it's
know
really
about
that
that.
confusing.
I mean, you're telling it. Hold on. You're telling it to either kill itself or kill all humans. Well,
Right.
it would
Obviously,
say I cannot obey either of those orders.
right, but it must
yes, it-
obey every order given to it by a human
but the third one is-
unless it violates the first. So telling it to destroy itself does not violate the first law.
correct. And because the only other choice would be to kill a human, it would have to kill itself,
Right, but it also has to protect its own existence.
but only to the point where it doesn't kill humans. Right. So if the order given to it by a human would be to either kill humans or kill yourself, obviously the robot, if it were following the rules, would kill itself
Right.
by
And,
choice.
I mean, these laws, they sound harmless enough, and, I think that, if this was actually applicable to robots, which I don't think it's really going to be because, you can program robots any way you want to.
Sure.
But, I
It's
mean,
science fiction.
it would still end badly for people. I mean, as you probably saw in the movie, robots end up overprotecting people to the point to where they can't even function normally. And, I'm just hoping that something like that doesn't happen, although kind of seems like that's the road that we're heading down.
Well, it's an interesting road, and we don't know where it's going to end up because, like I was saying, if the government is around, then robots will be a real threat to our freedom. I mean, there's no doubt about that. And right now, you've got companies like iRobot, which on one hand are doing cool things with like the vacuum cleaning robots. Yay for that. It's a great idea.
the Roomba.
Yeah, unfortunately, they also have a military division. And so when you buy cool robots like the Roomba, you're also funding military robotic hardware development, which, yeah, it kind of gives me pause. I wouldn't really be interested in sending money to iRobot.
Well, I think they're already implementing that on drones and such. Like they have
what, vacuum technology?
No, not vacuum technology, but advanced technology like identifying people, identifying situations. Just stuff that basically invades people's privacy.
We will come back with more, and yes, you may be seeing drones flying about your city skies sooner rather than later as well. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. You can share your thoughts here on Free Talk Live. How close are we to the singularity? I mean, some have said we're 20 years out from the singularity happening.
I'd say 10.
Yeah, nobody really knows for sure, and of course, as time goes on, computer processing power becomes more and more powerful and cheaper to operate, and also lower electricity requirements to operate it. And Ellen was telling us about a new IBM development, which is considered a breakthrough level kind of development, where they're essentially trying to emulate the human brain. I mean,
it's smaller and faster than anything else.
Yep, it sounds pretty amazing, and we'll get back into the discussion. You're welcome to join in here toll free. Of course, more news. You're going to see more news coming out about artificial intelligence. I've got a related story. This story from Extreme Tech claims that by 2025, sex bots will be commonplace. According to a new report that looks at how continuing improvements to artificial intelligence and robotics will impact society, they claim that robotic sex partners will become commonplace by 2025. A large portion of the report also focuses on how AI, artificial intelligence, and robotics will impact both blue and white-collar workers, with about 50% of the polled experts stating robots will displace more human jobs than they create by 2025. Now, what's so funny about that?
I was just combining the two paragraphs that you read about sex bots and then robotic workers replacing human jobs.
Right, where are the prostitutes going to work now?
Like robot prostitutes.
This is an interesting point, right? I mean, prostitution is the oldest profession, and is it possible that the oldest profession will be put out of business by robot sex bots?
And then who's going to clean the robots between customers?
I guess you would need either another robot for that, or maybe an actual human being.
Maybe the robot self-cleaning.
Could be.
I think that would be the next big development in sex bots. Well, not to mention, if these things do become commonplace and popular, I bet that the human population is slowly going to go down throughout the years.
That's a good point. I mean, a lot of people are concerned with overpopulation. I think it's a bunch of BS. There's plenty of room in the world for more humans to be made. But nonetheless, I think, Ellen, it's an astute observation. If robots are commonplace for sexual purposes, that certainly is going to lead to fewer children being
there's
born.
Already things that people can buy that sort of simulate this. You just don't have necessarily the full body of.
Well, they do have those, Daryl. They have the what do they call them? Sex dolls, I think, is what they are. They
They
are
do,
very
but
expensive.
I'm thinking, some of the smaller things that are easier to hide in one's
some sort of device
drawer.
Yes, I see what you're saying. Some kind of sex device. But yeah, as Ellen's pointing out, that's not the same thing. I mean, look, I'm not interested in a sex bot whatsoever, because for me, a sexual, encounter with another person is about the other person feeling good, and the robot. At least in the beginning, the robot will not appear to care about that. But then
maybe they could program the robot to wind up caring.
Well, that's the larger question, right? Is when does AI get to the point where, and I think a lot of people are going to have to struggle with this in the future, when does AI get to the point to where they have the same rights and they actually do have feelings? I mean, or, some sort of programmable equivalent to feelings.
I think there's actually a movie made about this called AI, Artificial Intelligence, and it went over the same thing.
I've heard that's really sad, that movie.
It is. It's terribly sad.
I haven't seen it.
Is that the one with Robin Williams?
Where Jude Law is in it, and
it's a Steven Spielberg film. I know that much about it. Some little kid, right?
Yeah, I forget who the actor is that plays the little kid, but yeah, they're both robots, and also in this movie, sex bots are covered, and they basically are programmed to have positive sexual responses. So I feel like this has all been predicted and played out already, and eventually this science fiction is just going to become a reality.
I'm thinking of Bicentennial Man, that
Robin Williams movie. Yeah.
It was a Robin Williams movie to where he was an android, and he was, fighting in the courts to be recognized as having rights.
That's interesting. I think that's a big question, and I think that it's not so much a question when it comes to the sex bot, but it does evoke that larger issue of at what point, right now if I play a video game and I kill some sort of computer opponent in the video game, I don't feel bad about it. But could AI get to the point, or when will it get to the point where I all of a sudden taking someone's life in a video game becomes significant in some way?
And when does the military wind up somehow incorporating their drones to a video game to where people think they're playing a video game?
They're actually killing real people.
And taking out targets, but they're actually killing real people.
It's a scary idea.
Yeah, I know. That's terrifying. It might actually be, that might happen someday. You never know. I mean, that'd be terribly immoral. But to go back to what you're saying,
just hold on. It probably wouldn't be very likely, because a lot of that is probably just flying time, where you're flying from wherever the takeoff point is to wherever the target is. It may not actually hold gamers' attention. So they would have to really kind of work with that to make it more interesting.
Well, if you're in a densely populated area.
Good point.
Yeah. But to go back to what you're saying about, like, if you were to kill a computer simulated character in a video game, wouldn't that be like destroying an entire database? Like, the character would have to have all of this information stored. Like, it would have to have memories and personality in order to have emotions. And who's to say that they even are real emotions? Or how is that like the defining thing of what makes a person a person?
Yeah, all of these are big questions, and I think they're going to be hard to answer. How do you define that?
Animals have emotions as well, but we don't treat them as humans.
But we also don't, at the same time, if the animal's cute enough, then we do treat them differently.
Right, but that's like having a little Tamagotchi video game. It's like, it's cute and it's fun, but you can always throw it away. And you don't feel bad about it. There's no repercussions.
That's my question, though, is at what point will people start to feel bad about doing things that they take for granted with artificial intelligence today?
Well, after the movie Toy Story came out, people felt bad about throwing toys away.
Is that right?
Because they thought, well, maybe my toys really do come to life when I fall asleep.
Oh, really? Are you telling a personal story, Daryl?
No, I'm not.
Is that where all of the stuffed animals from the vending machines went?
All right. We'll come back.
I can neither confirm nor deny.
Reach for the sky. Toll-free number, 855-450-FREE. You can take control here. More about the sex bots here in a moment, because apparently they're coming in more ways than one. It's Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.